Lesson 16.8 is angles formed by chords, tangents, and secants, level 1. So I split the notes into the 3 different sections because they each have a different rule or a property to follow. So the first one is having a chord intersecting a chord. And we talked about a chord being a line that goes through a circle from one edge to another. And so you've got that as a chord and this is a chord. It kind of reminds me of like a railroad crossing sign. And it says that the measure of an angle formed by 2 chords. So here or here or here or here, the angles inside the circle, it's going to equal half the sum of the measures of its intercepted arcs. So sum means to add. It's going to be half the answer to an addition problem. It says if the measure of arc VD, so here to here, is 100 degrees, and the measure of arc S to U, which is here to here, is 68 degrees. Find the measure of angle VKD, which, just so you know, would be the same as if they asked us to find the measure of UKS, because these are vertical angles. But either way, you've got this angle and this angle. We're going to use those to figure out the angle on the inside. So all you're doing is taking half of the sum of the arcs. So 100 plus 68. It's like you're averaging them, because averaging is adding up the numbers, dividing by how many numbers are. So it'd be 168. Half of that, or divided by 2, would be 84. So that tells me that 84 degrees would be this angle, which would also be this angle. Okay, let's look at the next one. A secant intersecting a secant means that you have a line that touches the outside edge of a circle in 2 spots, and another line that touches the outside of a circle in 2 spots, and the angle formed by it is going to be here outside of the circle. So let's see what we've got. It also, I told you that the measure of the outer angle formed by these 2 secant lines is half the difference of the measures of the intercepted arcs. So it's basically the same as what we did here, but instead of adding, we're going to subtract. So the measure of arc CU, which is here, is 52 degrees. And the measure of arc YH, this bigger one, is 150 degrees. Find the measure of angle L. And so all you're doing is saying it's half of the difference of 150 minus 52. And so that would be 150 minus 50 would be 100. 100 minus 2 would be 98. Half of 98, or thinking 98 divided by 2, would be half of 90 is 45. That'd be what, 49 degrees. So doing the math is not the problem. It's just remembering them when they're all mixed up. The way I think of this is we're outside, so we're supposed to kind of subtract or find the difference. And then the last one is having a tangent line, which means a line that only touches a circle in one spot on the outside, intersecting either a secant or a chord. The only difference between a secant and a chord is that a secant line keeps going versus a chord would stop on each edge. But the way to find the measure of the angle formed by these 2 things is half the measure of the intercepted arc. So let's look at this. JD, that line is tangent to circle O at point J. We've already seen that. And line JQ is a secant line. We've talked about that. If the measure of arc JQ, so it has to be this way. It cannot be this bigger arc because that's called a major arc and it's more than 180 degrees or half the circle. This has 2 letters, so we know that it's smaller or a minor arc. That's 132 degrees. Find the measure of QJD. That angle would be right here. And so you're really looking at this angle pointing out. And so the arc here would be this. And it just says that it's half the measure of that. So half of 132, or 132 divided by 2, is what? 66 degrees inside of here. So really this is our same property as an inscribed angle is the way I think about it.